The story starts with a young man named David who loved to daydream a lot. He had a strong attraction to women and was always thinking about romantic things. During summer break, David went to visit his family's country home. A family helper traveled with him to guide him there. On the journey, David kept staring at the helper and having romantic thoughts. The helper noticed his behavior, but didn't say anything about it. When they arrived at the house, David's family was happy to see him. David's mother saw a white stain on his clothes and asked about it. David knew it was from melted ice cream. His aunt said this kind of thing happens often at his age, and helped clean the stain. David then met his younger sister Emma, who was excited to see him. Emma took David to explore the woods around their home. There, David accidentally discovered that some of the houseworkers were having romantic relationships. He saw one maid named Sarah with a man, which surprised and embarrassed him. He quickly ran back home. That evening during dinner, David went to his room to sleep. But he couldn't rest because he kept hearing sounds from other parts of the house. When he looked outside his room, he saw another maid named Lisa with someone, but he couldn't see who it was clearly. David felt lonely because he wanted a girlfriend, but didn't have one. His sister Emma came to talk with him and told him about their aunt Susan. Emma said that Susan was afraid of men and had never married. After their chat, both fell asleep. Later that night, Aunt Susan came into David's room. She sent Emma away and stared at David for a while before leaving. David felt confused about her strange behavior. The next day, Emma showed David where the women workers bathed and talked together. They hid behind trees and watched. David also noticed that some male workers were trying to get the women's attention from across the river. When David's older sister Alice came home with their father, everyone was happy, except Alice seemed cold toward David. This made him feel sad and confused. Emma took David to a church where they secretly listened to Aunt Susan talking to a priest. Susan confessed that she had fallen in love with David and had romantic dreams about him. David heard everything and realized he had feelings for her too, since he had never been in love before. David got so shocked that he fell and fainted. The priest and Susan brought him home and told his mother what happened. David's mother got very angry and decided Susan should discipline David as punishment. While recovering from his punishment, David became more curious about the romantic relationships he kept seeing around the house. He found a worker named Tom looking through a telescope and discovered Tom had books about love stories. David secretly took one of the books to read. David tried to help Lisa when she seemed to be in trouble with a male worker. But she didn't really need help. She was just playing around. David got more confused about relationships. A mailman announced that war had started, and all the men would have to leave to fight. David was secretly happy because this meant he would be alone with all the women in the house. There was a tradition that couples spent one last romantic night together before the men left for war. After all the men left, David started approaching different women in the house. He spent time with Sarah, then with his Aunt Susan, then with Lisa, and finally with his sister Alice. All of them seemed to enjoy his company. David thought he was having a wonderful time, but then problems started. Alice told him she was going to have a baby. Then Sarah said the same thing. Then Aunt Susan also said she was expecting a baby. David realized he was in serious trouble. Since the war was ending and the men were coming back, David had to think quickly. He helped Alice blame her boyfriend for her pregnancy. He convinced Aunt Susan to marry Tom. He tried to help Sarah find a husband, but she refused. Lisa also told David she was expecting a baby, but she said she would handle the situation herself. David's summer vacation ended, and he had to return to school, leaving behind all the complicated situations he had created. The end. David left home, knowing he had caused many problems, but hoping the women would find ways to solve them. The story ends with him going back to his regular life, having learned about love and relationships in a very complicated way.